Hello everybody, it's Lucy Wolfe here, sleep consultant and author of the Baby Sleep Solution. I hope that you're really well today. Last night I was doing a talk in McCabe's Pharmacy because I've been in different stores because of my product Sleep Through, the 100% natural essential oil blend, relaxing rub and body and bed sleep spray. And this evening I'm going to be in Macaulay's in Douglas for another event as well. So it's keeping me busy. But a question that came up last night, and it's really relevant for this week, was about how to manage your sleep when you have school runs and you have a baby as well. Now, there is another IGTV on this, so it might be worth going and looking at that again, but I just thought just very quickly I would come on this morning just to explain my thoughts a little bit about how can we manage that. Because very often, if you've got a number of children, like I had at one point with school runs, there was a time where I had a 12 o'clock pickup, a 1:30 pickup and a 2:30 pickup and a baby. And as a result of that, there was not really anywhere for me to put the main or the second nap in that instance, because when your baby is on 2 naps a day from around 8 months onwards, generally we anticipate that the first nap might be around 9:30 or even 10 o'clock. So that is doable with the school run, the drop-off one at least. But then the second nap ideally is around 1:30/2 p.m. And so if you have a number of pickups or you have the later pickup, that can sometimes cause a little bit of a problem, because it either means your nap is going to be finished too early or your nap is going to fall too late. And I suppose both those items can cause us problems with our children's sleep. Now, it's not possible to stretch out your naps unless your baby is already doing quite well in the overall context of their sleep. So it's very challenging for a child who's routinely woken overnight to have the first nap stretched out to 9 and 9:30. And although you'll have heard me and you'll have watched little videos about moving the naps later, you can only really move the naps later when all of the components are starting to work for you. So it is a tricky one. And again, it's a really tricky one if you have a school run, and even if you're on a single nap, the time of the single nap ideally is around 1 p.m. to maybe 3 or 3:30 p.m. So again, this school pickup collection can start to cause a lot of difficulties, and I suppose you might need to get creative around it. Now again, if you're dealing with a well-rested child, they tend to be more flexible, and we tend not to have to be as prescriptive or as precise with the time for daytime sleep, because what we experience is that they're quite well rested, and as a result of being quite well rested, they can tolerate us putting sleep at the time that probably shouldn't work, but will, because they're coming from quite a strong little background. So I suppose if it's a thing that you're not in that strong little background, it might need a week or two for you to try and improve the sleep tendency across the board. And in that week or so, you might try and draft in support for other people to help out with the school run, or other people to be in your home while your baby is actually sleeping. Now, I know that sometimes sounds like, oh my God, how am I going to organise that? And I suppose I just mentioned there that as a parent myself, I did experience this. And I suppose I had to get creative, because my baby needed to sleep and my children need to be picked up as well. And I guess I'm always going to try and prioritise the child's sleep, because otherwise we might be awake all night and then I'm not really a parent to anybody as a result of that. So I suppose things that I did personally, I carpooled with another mum, and we shared the load between us, and we tried to figure out who could do what and when. And even if it was a thing that 2 days the naps weren't amazing, they were on the go, they were in the car, or they were late or they were early, maybe another 3 days that she did the run, and we kind of carpooled that way. She had 5 kids and I had 4, and it was just our way of trying to figure it out between us. And then another time I used to have someone come to my home and just sit at my kitchen table while I went and did the school run. I paid them for their time because Harry was asleep in bed and the other people needed collecting. And again, for me, now I know that's not in everyone's budget, I know that, but again, I just try and get you to think about what can you do. And again, if you are fortunate enough to live near grandparents, maybe the grandparent would come and be the person to sit at your kitchen table, or, you know, if you have younger siblings or people in college, I don't know, it's just about trying to figure it out, because unfortunately, sleep and the science of sleep can be a little bit unforgiving. And if you have a child who is routinely not sleeping great in the first instance, instance, we try to prioritise that element to begin with and get it into what I call this working model and improve that tendency. And then, like I said, I feel that when that tendency is more improved, then we can maybe look at stretching things out, putting them where they probably shouldn't be, but they work anyway because things are okay in your neck of the woods. I mean, the other alternative is naps on the go, and that's not the worst thing in the world either. And again, there will be an IGTV on naps on the go as well. And I suppose, of course, cot sleep is desirable. But again, it's not always achievable. I obviously like if you can have a balance between the two items. My ratio is normally 80-20, but again, if you can't have anywhere near that, or you actually prefer naps in the buggy or the car, it is just a case of making sure that your child gets the sleep that they need at around the time that they should be sleeping at, because the day sleep balance will have an impact on the nighttime, either positively or negatively. So again, it's just trying to find the balance between those two items. And again, a lot of you ask me in questions that come up about the third nap, when your baby is still having a third and fourth nap, and I don't normally recommend that is cot-based sleep, but it can be if your child is willing and open to it. And again, my youngest guy, he used to take the third nap in the cot because we'd come home and do homework and he'd go up to bed. But again, the point is that if that nap is really hard for your child in the cot, then it is better if we achieve it with motion. And again, the buggy or the car is ideal. But again, you might not be able to go out driving, and so I often just rode the buggy in the kitchen while I was trying to make dinner, and answer all the questions that came from the homework dynamic. Now look, it does get easier. I've got 2 in secondary school, I've got 2 left in primary school, and they are, I'm not going to say they're self-sufficient because they're not, but they are far more self-sufficient than they were when we were all in that real intensive care period. And I guess it's just trying to keep the show on the road as you do it. And it is hard. It is super hard, and often when I look back, I'm not entirely sure how we did it, but we did. And I suppose it's the same. The question comes up about, how do you do a bedtime routine when you have more than one child? And I suppose it is a case of trying to, first of all, ingrain some really positive sleep practices within the household so that you create a high level of sleepability across your cast members. And then when you have a higher level of sleepability amongst them, then you can look at maybe having one bedtime routine, 2 children, 3 children, depending on their ages and what time bedtime should be. Or, you just staggered bedtime routine and one waits for you while you go and deal with the other. And I suppose I do think that everything is achievable, but I also think that it takes a bit of work to establish that, as with any improvement exercise that you might introduce to your little home, whether it's about eating, exercise or sleep. Everything takes a kind of like an intense approach just at the very start. So I hope that's helpful. I've loads of questions on my DMs at the moment. I can't get through them. I just don't have the time, unfortunately, and as much as I'd love to. A lot of the questions actually are already in the book, and unfortunately it's just a case of having to reread, go back through it, back and forth. And again, of course, there's loads and loads of videos here on my IGTV, and lots of content here as well on my website, sleepmatters.ie. So I hope that is helpful, or at least it gives you some insights into that juggle that is parenting, sleep and school runs in the meantime. So I look forward to seeing you here again soon.